Okay, so we are back. So after these conditions match, it's going to perform a block of code. So if else, just like we know, it's written like this. I like to comment, then we do something. If condition, which is the condition may be if 1 equal to 2, if 2 equal to 1, condition. If condition, then you do this. Else, you write the else here. You can write it anywhere, but most people write it like this. Else, that if that condition doesn't match, if it doesn't match, this statement will be executed. So if this matches this condition, then statement will be a statement. Is like console.log. It's just a statement, do something. Else, another statement. So this is how if else look like. So in this statement, you can still have another if, another sub if. Remember, this one has matched. We have matching statement here. Inside this matching condition, inside this matching condition, you can still have another if again to check whether there is a sub condition that is matching, that is supposed to match. And inside that one, you still have your if else again, and else. And now you understand, the else will be there. Then this one now will close this, because this is just a sub. It's just a sub if else. I can minimize it. So this is just a sub if else inside the major if else. This is the if for the major, and this is the else for the major. Now this is just a sub if else. So this, because we have else here, will not affect the else of this man. No, this is a sub. It's running on its own. After this condition match, it's going to do this, resolve everything. It's going to do this. If this doesn't match, if this condition doesn't match, it comes here, because it's a sub of this. If it matches, it does this. Then when it does everything, it returns. If this condition doesn't match, it's going to skip all of this code and do the major if, the major else, which is this statement. So that's how if else works. You can actually put them, how do they call it? You can actually, I don't know if it's stacking. It's not stacking. There's a term for it, but let's go to what we are here for today. We're almost done. So where were we? Okay, I was trying to say this block of code, this block of if else is under this one. So I've explained it. It's under this one. So when this matches, it now checks this. If it matches, it does this. If this now doesn't match, it does this. But if this doesn't match, it goes back to the big else. Else, you are not welcome. Or better still, I should type, what does it print? Invalid cohort number. Please enter a valid cohort number. Let me just leave it invalid cohort number. I don't get time for long statements. Invalid cohort number. Okay, let's run this one more time. I have maybe major 11 dash 1 2 3 4 5 invalid cohort number, because one, it did not meet the condition where we said you should see cohort. Now you do cohort maybe cohort 10 dash 1 2 3 4 5. Run. You are not welcome to the class. Please enter a valid cohort number. For example, this. We have handled so many conditions, even if we may not have handled all. Now we did not handle capital letters. Cohort 11 dash 1 2 3 4 5. This one will tell us it is invalid, whereas it is valid because of just because of the capital letter. So invalid cohort number. So what we can do in this case is when the user inputs what he wants to input, where is it? The user inputs what he wants to input. We can now bring everything to lowercase. No matter whether it's in lowercase or it is not in lowercase, just bring it to lowercase. You understand? And now to bring it to lowercase, you just have to add, when you have gotten the prompt, you just have to add to lowercase, maybe on this element now, because this is what the user enters is going to save here. Just add maybe the next line, you add a new variable, const lower user input equal to, this is the variable, user input dot to lowercase. That's it. Then here, where is that place? Here where we have user input, okay, here where we have user input dot trim, what we are going to be having now is the lower user input, because we have already converted the user input to lower user input, and save. That's all. So if we run this now, maybe we enter cohort 11 dash 1 2 3 4 5, it's going to automatically convert this thing for us to lowercase before doing the mathematics. So you are welcome to the class. Your passcode is entirely correct. Now you see it is correct because we converted the input, the user input, to lowercase. Then now we start doing our comparison in the lowercase form. So you can also do to uppercase if you want to convert from lower to upper. So our code is still working and it's fine. So we are done with this part. I know this part entails a lot, and I intentionally wanted to bring this part because it handles a lot. We are done with this part, but now what do we do? What do we now do if the user has been granted, okay, you are a part of it? Now vote. Let's vote. It's time to vote. So I don't know, before we vote, we may do the voting next class, or we may still do it today. But before we vote, I want to take questions. It's not much. The voting part is not going to be much. But I want to take questions, if any. I'm recording the class, so we can always recap.
I have a question.
Okay.
Now, after the conditions, if the conditions are not met,
yes,
we need to loop.
Will it be?
Yeah, we need to repeat the process. So you've not used loop.
Okay. That's another.
It's still part of the condition. It's still part of the process.
If the condition is not met.
If the user enters wrong
password, it should still prompt again. Now,
wrong cohort number, whatever, he needs to repeat the process.
That's no issue. We can handle that one. To handle that one is the best way to handle that one is you put this your code in a function. But I don't want to go into that now. But you put this your code in a function. Then if it fails, it prints this and still calls that function. You know, a function is made to be reusable. So if it fails, it's going to print you it has failed, invalid cohort number. Then tells you re-enter this and still goes through this again. This is the reusable part, which will be a function. We can just call it. Piam, we have called it. So we did not use this as a function, but we can turn it to a function. It's not going to be difficult. But if I start doing it now, it's going to confuse a lot of people. At least let's understand how the normal code will flow without function, then we now learn function. At least this itself is still something we can sleep over it, but we are still going to touch the function, maybe not today. Okay, so your suggestion is actually good. That's how it's done in real life. You will not just tell your users maybe after this they input something wrong and it has ended, invalid cohort number, it has ended. No, why? It's supposed to either give you a button again to say, okay, input cohort number again, then you continue. That's how you make your application robust. So thank you very much for that observation. Any other question? Okay, I cannot see any question. Anybody's hand up? So that means I should continue. Everybody. Okay. I'm going to continue, and the one good thing is we are recording the class. So okay, where did I end? Okay, what I want us to do now is let's start voting. After this must have been confirmed that okay, we are valid, let's start voting. Let's go to our HTML and just put a small two button, like something like let me just put a div. This is normal HTML div and I'm going to give it an ID of, and somebody was asking before, how do you put JavaScript content in your HTML? This is where we are going to now. You give it an ID of, say, content, and inside this div we give it a text like this. No, let me not write all of this because it's going to confuse some people. Okay, we give it a paragraph. The paragraph says welcome to voting page. Let me leave it like this. Welcome to voting page. Then in this paragraph we are going to have two buttons. We are voting for two people. We are voting for contestant A and contestant B. Contestant A and contestant B. So we are voting for, let me just say contestant A I'll put a button there as button, and I'm going to call it vote, and here I'm going to give it an ID because I know I'll get it. I can give it vote A, and I'm going to give it for contestant B too. Contestant B, and I'm going to give it vote B too. So let's see how it looks on our screen. Okay, first of all, when the page comes up, JavaScript first of all runs. So as it's running, it's not going to show up our code. That's why we don't say anything here until this test is passed. So if this test is passed, let's assume cohort 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and okay, you can see it now shows us this. It now gives us access to this. I'm going to put a break here, br, and save. So it's something like this. Let me double that br. That's if your maybe your loading is slow. This will first of all make sure it runs. But now as I've ran it before, it has cached it, so this can now come up. Okay, so this is voting contestant A and voting contestant B. What you want to do is, if you vote this person, the value will be here, it will be increasing. Let's just assume you can vote multiple times. You can vote this or vote this. You know, this Big Brother show or something, you can vote multiple times. You understand? But now we have already tried to make sure that before you vote, you must be in our cohort, you must be in our program. Let's assume you can vote multiple times. You can do one time, make sure you vote only once, but let's just do multiple times, because with that one you learn better. Voting one time, once the person clicks on this button, you can now disable the button, and that's all. The person cannot click again. So that's voting once. But voting more than one time, there's a small mathematics in it, so I want us to see that. So this is our code, contestant A, contestant B, and I want to do a result. Do a result place like this, and this is just normal HTML, so let's not think it's something different. The only difference is in every of my buttons where I know I want to place something, I'll give it an ID like this, but that's no issue. We're coming back to it. Okay, result, contestant A is 0, contestant B is also 0. Nobody has voted. Now notice I'm giving IDs. You can also give class and use the class in JavaScript, but I recommend you use IDs while you use class in CSS, so that when you see ID, you know it's going for JavaScript. You can also use class here and call it in JavaScript using query selector. Now notice I'm giving this an ID because I'll need to get this button, and I also need to get this button using the ID name, so that if you click on this button, something should happen. I need this button to tell JavaScript that you see this button, I need this button. So now I'm going to do this side by side. This is my HTML and this is my JavaScript. Come here, voting starts. Okay, now I'll start with a condition. Somebody's calling me and I don't want to take this call now. If most at times, okay, I'll not start with the condition. I'll first of all get all my IDs, get all of them and put in my JavaScript. How do I do that? Const. I'm using const because they don't change. You see this ID now, I've given this ID to this P element. It will not change. The ID will not change. It will always be called this ID. There's no need to change it. So I'm using const. Let me start from here. Let me get this button. It's called vote A. Const vote A equal to document dot get element. Get element by ID.
What is wrong?
What?
The ID, the vote. You didn't add E to the ID, the vote A.
Okay, thank you. Look at it here. Vote A equal document dot get element by ID. Vote A. You end it there. What am I saying here? Somebody was asking, how do I put JavaScript in my HTML? This is where you have to get focused now. What am I saying here? I'm saying vote A. This is a new variable I'm creating, not this one here. Seen here. Oh. I can call this one maybe vote underscore A. It's a new variable I'm creating. This is not a variable. So I can call this one anything, but sometimes I like to call it the same name as that ID I'm getting. So that if I look at it, I just know it's okay, it's correct. I can call it anything, I can call it mayor, I can call it anything. What I'm doing is a constant variable, const A is equal to, anytime you see equal to in JavaScript, know the right hand side, what it evaluates. If it's a calculation or anything, what it evaluates, it gives it to the left hand side. Anytime you see equal to, one equal to, it's not comparison, it's assignment operator. So anything this evaluates to, it gives it to this side. So what does this evaluate to? This evaluates to document.get element by ID vote A is getting an element in the HTML by its ID. So it's going to find the HTML, go to the HTML and check which element has that ID. Bam, it sees it. So it's going to get all of this element, the button element. Look at it very well. You're going to get all of this button element. Document dot. You're going to come to your document. This is the document. When you talk about document, this is document. A page is your document. So get element by ID. This is the element with that ID. Let me come here and do vote A so that it's going to be clear. When we look at it, vote B. And save. You come here, you're going to get, still loading. Okay, contestant A, you're going to get an element with that ID, which is this element, this button element here. This is it. This is a button. This is a button. So this is my variable. Now it will be assigned. What it gets will be assigned to anything I put here as the variable. So I've gotten that. Let's get all the buttons in our code. Const vote B equal to document.get element by ID vote B, which is this. The ID, remember, this is it. And this vote B is just a name. A new name I'm giving. I can give it any name. Okay. Then I'll get this one now. This one. Result A, result B. I'm calling result A because the result for A will be here. Result B for B will be here. So I'm going to say const result A equal to document dot get element by ID result A. Document dot, that's in my HTML document, get that element which has the ID result A. When it gets the element, what should we do with it? We give it to a variable. Variable helps hold something so that you can now use it very well. Now let's get for result B. Const result B equal document.get element by ID result B. Okay, now I've gotten the 4 elements. I've gotten the 2 buttons and I've gotten the space. Look at this space now where I'm going to put my result. Let me go back to my browser. Look at this space. This is what I got now. Not this one, no, not this one. If you look at it very well, that one is in the P. I'm not getting the P. I'm getting the span. Let me open it a little. I'm getting what is in the span, and the span itself has this ID. So I'm getting this element by its ID. So I've gotten the 2 results. So I'm going to put my result and the 2 buttons. Fine. Now I want to declare two variables. One is to hold the votes for A, and one is to hold the votes for contestant B. So up here I can just say not const. If I use const, that means the result will always remain that constant variable, but now result will be changing anytime I vote. So I'll say let I cannot use vote A again because I've already used it. Let vote count A equal to 0. I have to put it to 0. Why? Because initially when you start, they have to be 0. Vote count for A equal to 0, and vote count for B equal to 0 too. I don't want to use function now. We ourselves may decide to say, okay, our next class we are going to put all of this in function. It's still another project on its own to change your code to function when you are still learning. So let's not rush into it now. I've gotten a variable vote count A. That is going to count how many times I'm voting for A, for contestant A, and it's going to count how many times I'm voting for contestant B. But initially they are all 0. Okay, I've gotten all of these things are just getting just declaration. I've not done anything. I'm just getting my buttons and my spaces where I'm going to put my output, and I've also declared this and initialized it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to how do I put it? Okay, I'm going to say if a user clicks on A, on this, if a user clicks on this element, remember I've gotten this element by its ID. If a user clicks on this element, what should happen? That means you have voted for this person. So that's where you come back to this our code. Look at this place. You can write everything here, all your processes before you start writing. You can write everything here. If a user clicks, all those things, write everything here so that you can verify to it. Now if a user clicks on this button, I got the button as vote A. This is it. So I can say vote A dot on click, vote A dot on click, small letter, sorry, vote A dot on click. What should happen? It should do something for us. Now see this vote A dot on click, what should happen? It should do something for us. It's valid. I will not say it's not valid, it's valid. Now if you are coding, it's good to use the modern way of coding. I'm going to introduce it to us. It's called add event listener. That's the modern way of coding. You don't just code. You don't just code because you want to code. Sometimes you modernize the code, because especially when you want to learn React, all those modern features you start see them handy in React. You start I already know this thing is the same JavaScript. But if you use the old method of coding, like using var, using some kind of old method, you will notice that when you want to learn a modern programming language, or you see a modern code, you will not understand that code. So you can say when the user clicks on vote A, we are supposed to say vote A dot on click. You can actually say vote A dot add event listener. That's that button, which is vote A, should listen. It should listen. It's an asynchronous function. We'll learn that anytime soon. It should keep listening. Anytime a click is done, then it should execute something for you. It's listening. Anytime a click, there are so many events you can add here. You can add on mouse down, on enter, you can add any event. So anytime this add event listener takes two parameters. It takes first of all the what you are listening to. I'll still use on click, but I want us to see this one. It takes what you are listening to. It's just like it's a function like this. It's a method like this. A method inside an object like a dot, something is called a method. A function inside is called a method. So this add event listener is a default method. It's just call it function. Let's not complicate matter for us. It's a default something given by JavaScript. So if this is a button, we have gotten it, or an element, we have gotten it. Adding this function by using dots to that element means you are monitoring the element for a click. So anytime there's a click, what happens? You will now execute a function for you. At least we know how to write a function using function and the function name, maybe calculate vote A, the function, then
Check your function, there's a T at the end.
calculate vote A function. So I'm going to delete this. I just want to make sure our minds are there, because we have been doing something like this. So on click of this element, that's not on click, but it's click because we're using click. This element, we have gotten it from here. Then this element dot add event listener, that means you are adding something that will listen to this button. Now you see this, we have gotten the button here. Anytime you see this thing now, this thing, know is that button we are referring to. So on this button, we have added an event listener. We have added something that will be listening for an event. There are so many events. If you want to know events in JavaScript, and which you just write on, not here, not in the string. That's because it's in the string. Let's say on. Look at them. On abort, on blur, on cancel. There's so many. On change, on click. There's so many of them. So if you have not used even 1%. I've not even used even 1% before. There are so many of them. On transition, on this, that on just looks like if it transitions, if you click. You understand? It's just like that. If you change it, then do this. If you click, so you don't put the on when you are using event listener. You just use click. You just use the remove the on when you are using event listener. So on click, it should run this function for you. Maybe the function should just be. Maybe just return. I hope we learned about return before last time, but we'll still talk about it again. Return 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1, for example. So when you click on this button now, it will calculate 1 plus 1 for you and return it to this your calling function. So anytime you call this function now, it's going to play it for you. So now let me remove this and do the normal on click. On click, that's on this button. On click. I didn't show you something. Let me undo back to where we were. Yeah, we were here. Now remember, it's better to write functions not in this way, not this in this manner. It's better to write functions as. I can now remove this. Can now open this. Okay, it's better to write functions as arrow functions. I recommend you do this. If you are going to learn React, you use it as if you have been using it all your life. So arrow functions come like this. So we're saying on click, add event listener, it is listening to a click. When it gets the click on this button, it runs this function. This function will just be like this, and very simple. So this block of code now will get what it wants to, maybe that return 1 plus 1. So it's just very simple to use arrow function. So now I'll remove all of this and go with this Mr. Skyline's method, which we have seen before, but this is what I recommend for you to be using. But I don't want us to, looks scary because we have not seen it before. Let me use on that button on click. What should happen? On click, it's not a function. That button on click, it should run a function like this, something like this. I'm trying to show you what we have done before. Just something like this. On click of it, it should evaluate this function and give it to it. But we are not going to do this. You have to learn this one because you may never see that one in many books. You will never see. So we are using add event listener. Anytime you hear on click, you can use add event listener, and the click, it runs this function. So what is it running for us? We have to write a block of code here. What is running for us is going to say, because you have clicked on A, you have clicked on this button. When you click on this button, what should happen? That means you have voted. This should be 1. If you click on this, you have voted for B. B should be 1. If you click on it again, you have voted for A. A should now increase again to 2. So what we are saying is, when you click on this, what should happen? This vote count, which is 0, should now be vote count A for A, because we are dealing on A. If you click on the A button, vote count for A should be equal to what? Vote count plus 1. If we now console.log vote count here, we will now notice that vote count will be 1. Let me do this. Let me come here and cohort 11. Okay, now my vote count did not show up. Let me see why. I hope I'm console.log accurately.
You have not clicked now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, now if I click, it's not responding. Let me check what's wrong with my code. Add event listener, click.
I was thinking it would be unblocked.
Console.log. I'm feeling like this is giving me an error because it's too white. Okay, let me complete for B and C. Let me do that for B.
Remove the on in line
Oh,
49.
Okay, that's why. That's why. Let me go back to where I was. You know, if JavaScript sees an error, it stops immediately. It doesn't check. I was not seeing this on. It's when I was doing on click things. But why did it not give me an error? It's supposed to tell me there's an on somewhere. Cohort, and I've not removed the on. I just want to check. It's supposed to throw. Okay, throw an error, but I did not see it. This is it. On is not defined. I did not see it. I was focusing on these things that were printed before. Okay, and save. So I'll enter cohort 11 1 2 3 4 5 again, and I take this. It has still not consoled for me.
I think you should vote again
Okay,
while you are
I've
there.
not voted. I have not voted.
Yeah,
Okay, now you
yeah,
can see it has given me
it's
one.
working.
I forgot it's a voting something. I'm supposed to vote. Now I voted one and I've seen the one. Look at my logic. On click, anytime I click, it should run this function. It should run this thing for me, this function, which is, remember, vote count A is 0 initially when I've not done anything. When I click, vote count A, which is 0 plus 1, will now be 1, and you assign to vote count A. That is what I'm console.login. If I click again, the new vote count A will now be, remember vote count A has been 1 because we have clicked before. It will now be 1 plus 1. Assigned to this will be 2. So if I click again the third time, vote count A originally is 2 because I've clicked 2 times. It will now be 2 here plus 1. So that's how we increment it. So let me click again. That is 2. I click again, 3, 4. Now this line, you see this line is it's okay, it's working fine, but as a programmer you should know that this is what it does, but don't write it this way. How you are going to write it is either you use vote plus plus to say when you click vote should add by 1. Plus plus means add by 1. When you click vote should add by 1. So this will work the same as cohort 11 dash 1 2 3 4 5. It should work the same as what we were doing before. So let me vote 1 2 3 4 5. So you can continue to vote plus plus means add by 1, and now go to the next. Just add by 1, go to the next line. Also, it's either you use this or you use vote plus equal to 1. That means it should vote count A is 0. You should add 1 to it and assign it, and still assign it to vote count A. That's what it means. So if we run it the first time, vote count A will now be 1, and we want to run it the second time, it's going to say vote count A plus equal to 1. Now vote count A is 1. If we run it, it's going to say add 1 to that 1 that is here and still assign it to 1 to vote count A. So
An increment value.
yes, it's all of them are incrementing by 1. All of them are incrementing because of this one here, incrementing by 1. Plus plus increments by 1. So I don't want to console.log this. When it adds this value, what do I need to do? This is the key now. I need to put it inside the result A. And we have said the result A, which is document.getElement by ID. Add that element, so I've gotten it and I've given it to result A. So instead of console.log on the console, I don't want to console.log on the console. I want to do result A. This result A is document.getElement by ID. We have given it to this result A dot text content or inner HTML. Inner HTML is more common, or inner text. All of them can put something inside an HTML. Equal to vote count A. This is vote count A, don't forget. Instead of us to console.log it, we use this dot inner HTML. This now stands for all of this. So somebody who did not define all of this in the beginning will be using document.getElement by ID result everywhere he wants to use A. It's the same thing like me just copying this, and I come here. Instead of using result A, I now use this. It is longer, and if you want to use this in multiple places, you'll be using this over and over. So that's why I advise when you are coding to code in a mature way. Make sure you declare all your anything you'll be using, anything you want to use, like element. You make sure you go up and make it look nice. Then you come down and just use the variable you have assigned it to, rather than writing all of this again. Then dot inner HTML if you are putting something in the middle, and this. So if I save this, come here, you can notice this is, you cannot do anything here until you pass this cohort 11 1 2 3 4 5. Remember, we've handled capital letters, so it can also work. Okay, you are entirely, this message can also come as a pop-up, but please give me 30 seconds. Looks like something is burning somewhere. Let me check. Okay, I'm back. So now if we start voting A, okay, it's appearing here. Okay, I don't think I've saved it. I don't know why sometimes it doesn't save. It's still appearing as console, whereas I've removed the console. So let me make sure I save it. Control S. Okay, let me write it again. Cohort 11 dash 1 2 3 4 5 and save. Okay, now I can now vote. You see, contents are A 1 2 votes, 3 votes. This we have not done this. 3, you see, you can actually vote. Then you can actually say, okay, we want it to vote once. That's after clicking once, you immediately disable this button. You can disable a button in HTML using disabled. Just write disabled, it's going to be disabled. So you can use JavaScript to pass that disabled to it, but we are not going there yet. Now we have done it for A and it's working fine. You can also do it for B. Button, vote, add event listener, and we come here, vote B plus plus, and all of this. And we now close our code and save. So we can come here and we pass our cohort dash cohort let me put 34 dash 1 2 3 4 5. It's not going to work, sha. Look at it, giving me this. So refresh this. Cohort 12, let me put 13 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, now we can now B is counting, A is counting on its own. You can see they are counting separately. You vote for A, you vote. So I think this is where we come to an end on this. Now don't forget, look at this, let me get a failed login. I think there's something small we need to do. Let me get a failed login. Get a failed login. Failed, invalid cohort number, and I vote. Why is it working when it's failed? So that is where functions come into play. Let's just use this as a function. Let me convert it to function. I can call the function let me use the normal traditional function so that we don't get lost. Function vote result, and the vote result is going to contain all of this. Vote starts. Okay, can cut, and I go to my vote result. It's a function, the name is vote result. Okay, now this function is just here. It's not going to run again. Even if I go and click on vote, it's not going to run. Why? Because I've not called it. Even if I come to my stuff and say cohort, let me just go, because I click it, it's not going to work. because the function is not called here. This thing is just, a function is just like, I've bought something, I've not connected it to my system for it to start functioning. I bought maybe a CD player, I've not connected it to my vehicle. So a function is just like something, a code somebody has written somewhere. You just go and buy and bring to your own code. Now, before you start using it, you have to connect it. Connecting it is calling it. And how do I call the function? It's just by using this name like this. So where do I call this function now? This function is just there on its own. Let's just assume I just went to buy this function. It's just there like this. All the codes are inside here. I've just folded it. Now, to run that function properly, let's come back to our code here to check if user successfully logs in. So you see, you are welcome to our class. Your passcode is entirely correct. So after this message, we can now call that our function. What is the function name again? Vote result. Because this is where we say after everything is correct, then now, what's the function name? I forget. Vote result. We now call vote result. And save. So this is where we call this thing now you are seeing here, this function. It's not being executed. The computer, when you start the program, your computer or your browser just goes through it and say, oh, I know about all of this. At least I've seen it. It's now brought to my notice. It's a function. It's a function, and the name is this. So anywhere I see it called, I'll just come here and execute this. So when the user logs in correctly, the next thing we should do is execute this function. Else, if the user doesn't log correctly, do this one. Don't execute the function. So let's come here and see what happens. It's loading. Okay. Cohort. Let me enter something wrong. Enter invalid cohort number. See, nothing happens. It's just there. It's just there. I can actually make this screen to say, okay, until it's valid, then this thing should show. But I don't want to make it that way so that it doesn't really confuse us. It's just to use the normal Java CSS display none. Until when it logs in, then now you can display block to show this. So that one is not a problem. So you can see nothing is happening because I have not been logged in. Now, if I come back here and do my normal password, cohort 11 and 5 random numbers to complete it. Okay, you are welcome to class. Your passcode is entirely correct. I can now vote. See, so I think we have done justice to this. If there's any question on this, then let's ask. If not, then that should be the end of this project, this mini project. So that person was asking how to put JavaScript on browser. I think the person has seen it now. It's very, very, very easy. Mr. Confidence.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you can take over. I'm done with this.
Okay.
So if there's any question, fine. If not, I'll just stop the recording and post it.
All right.
And send it to you. Sorry, I'm going to send it to you.
All right, no problem. Please, do you have any questions? We have like 6 minutes before another day. So please, if you have any question, if not, we can thank our tutor for today and then call it a day. Any question, any contribution? Going. All right. Okay. To the 17 persons remaining, thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope you got value. I hope